Welcome back to the class, everyone. In the next couple of weeks, we will be getting a lot more information about our new Jedi Vanguard Legendary, of which Jocasta Nu will be supporting. I'm pretty excited for this because that means that a lot of those Jedi that have the Jedi Vanguard tag that don't really have a place elsewhere in the game are finally going to be able to do something. And this got me thinking that this new Legendary and Jocasta are essentially a fix for those older Jedi. What other characters could we get in game that would fix some other team's problems? And the first team that I think probably needs a lot of help is going to be none other than the Wookiees. And I know that we've all talked about this a lot at length, and in fact, the Wookiee that I'm going to be suggesting isn't actually even a new one, or at least a new one in the community. Everybody's already talked about Gungi, the Jedi Wookiee that recently appeared in the Bad Batch series, and we have just gotten a lot of the Bad Batch characters, so maybe we're not too far off from getting him. But the reason why I think we need him now more than ever actually has to do with a recent buff that the Wookiees or a Wookiee got. For all you who remember, Zaba recently got a GA Siomicron, which is fantastic. It does a lot of really good things, both in general, but also specifically for Old Republic. But therein lies the problem. In 5v5, you are probably going to be wanting to use him under a Karth lead with Juhani and Jolie and Mission, because there are a ton of very specific callouts to all of those characters, of which don't really apply to a normal Wookiee team. The reason why this is negative for the Wookiee faction is because with Zalbar and Mission essentially having a higher calling, it means you can't even make a 5v5 Wookiee squad if you are not wanting to steal from other, what would normally be considered higher quality teams. Chrysanthemum is going off to be with Hut Cartel. The two main Chewbacca's, of course, are going with CLS. And then Vader Chewbacca definitely benefits from being with Dash due to his revive mechanic being very connected to the prepared mechanic. Meaning Wookiees really, again, they can't even participate in 5v5, whether they are good or bad. And quite frankly, the faction has almost suffered ever since it came out. So the fact that they could possibly get a new character in there to kind of fill the gap so that they could at least be used would be a great fix overall, much like how the new Legendary for the Jedi Vanguard should be coming to help some of the other characters that have especially struggled in PvP. Next up is going to be Pre-Viszla for the Mandalorians. Now, again, this has been a problem for a second as well. We got Bo-Katan in game, which has been fantastic for light side Mandalorians. But for dark side Mandalorians like ISC, who got a buff recently, Gar Saxon as well as Canderous, they don't really have a great home to go with. Now, obviously, we are not necessarily ignoring, but we're not going to be counting in Maul, because if you want to be leveraging Maul to your fullest extent, or leveraging Lord Vader to his fullest extent, then you need to put Maul on the team. And that's probably also more relevant now than ever, because with the Bad Batch pack, Lord Vader has actually become a lot more accessible than he has been previously because his requirements were so expensive. So if we steal Maul away because more people are getting Lord Vader, then these three characters, for the most part, are kind of told to go kick rocks. Now, Gar Saxon and ISC in 3v3 actually can counter General Skywalker really well, but I would really like a full official team. So in addition to getting Pre-Viszla, maybe they could also add in a dark side Bo-Katan. Not really sure if she's worthy of having 3 characters, but at the same time, if they wanted to, they could also just add in a miscellaneous Death Watch character. I don't think they necessarily need to introduce the Death Watch faction, and it becomes a little bit murky there because obviously Canderous wouldn't be included, and then Gar Saxon and ISC were probably a part of it at one point, but the waters get a little bit murky there. But at any rate, adding him in would give these guys a home without necessarily having to rip away Maul. There are other solutions if we want to go back to the Old Republic, but we start to tip into like GL territory with characters like Mandalore the Ultimate or even Mandalore the Preserver. Next up is actually going to be for the First Order team. And the reason why I'm bringing up Snoke now, along with a lot of these other characters in this, what is a more recent video, is because we recently got Dark Side Rey. And quite frankly, she has been fantastic. She's taken Supreme Leader Kylo Ren up to new heights. But one of the things that we're discovering, and this will take time and I may be totally wrong on this, but her and SLKR alone are able to take out a lot of high-quality teams. And even if you want to add another character like Crew, they typically continue to do pretty fine, including taking down Galactic Legend Leia, who is a very good defensive GL. Now, that being said, we're going to have a lot of leftover First Order characters that as the meta has progressed, don't really hold up, even with their GAC and TW Omicrons. So with all that into consideration, if they were to add Snoke into the game as a new First Order leader, I don't know if you would base him for TW or GAC, or maybe another game mode, but that rarely happens. At any rate, if you added him as a leader, he would be able to help utilize at least 4 of the current First Order characters, and it would also be really cool. I've always envisioned that he would, similar to how Watt gets a bonus turn in the very beginning and then gets to choose which of his 3 techs he wants to use. I always thought it would be cool if Snoke got a bonus turn in the very beginning of the match, and he would actually be able to choose 3 different variations of the Praetorian Guard. One would be a tank, one would be an attacker, one would be a support, and that could help you kind of design how you want to do the battle. And when they die, he maybe gets a bonus turn to summon another one. I don't know actually how that would work very well, because that maybe if you keep respawning the tank, things would be a little bit difficult overall. But at any rate, him coming to the game, because the overall meta or landscape of First Order has changed quite a bit. And quite frankly, even if SLKR and DSR aren't too many things, we have enough First Order that we could and arguably should be using 2 of their teams. Next up is going to be the Geonosians. And the reason why I'm talking about the Geonosians, there might be other teams out there that need more help than they do, but I always thought it was really awkward how a few years ago, both Poggle and Droideka got TW Omicrons, which that part wasn't weird. They got TW Omicrons, and they really solidified, at least at that time, a place for them on the TW map. What was weird is about a year ago, or a little more so, we got stopped to essentially give the General Grievous a real foothold, or the General Grievous team a real foothold in GAC, taking Droideka's place without you necessarily having to use characters like Newt or Watt that might want to go over to Trench. Geonosians never got the same treatment. They've essentially been left as a TW only team. I mean, they have some room in GAC, especially at the lower levels, but again, it's a little bit weird that the Separatists continue to get more love. I guess maybe it's not that weird because of the Naboo raid. But at any rate, I would really love for us to get Click Clack. I also apologize for not being able to find a better picture of that. It's not great. I don't know exactly what his kit would do overall. I assume some type of self-preservation type of mechanic, because that's really what he's doing all throughout Rebels. He's trying to make sure the species extends itself. The only awkward part about that is that's pretty much all what Geonosians are currently doing, where you're able to constantly heal and combine your health and protection, and then on top of that, constantly resummon the brute. So survival is really within their kits already, and Spy is trying to deal as much damage as it can. So I'm not exactly sure what he would do. All I know is that he would replace Poggle, because, and again, the same comparison with the Separatist Droid Squad, we would have a TW variation with Poggle, and then a GAC variation with our good friend Click Clack. Now, the last team here arguably doesn't need that much help. Aphra has been able to take out Jabba in 5v5 fairly consistently, depending on the datacrons both on her side and the enemy side. But it still bugs me that, again, the character has been out for years now, and we still don't really have a complete team. And by that, I mean, a lot of the modern teams that come out, they always have one character that it's like a dedicated cleanser, or a dedicated dispel, or a dedicated tank. Aphra is missing all 3. You can put tanks on the team like Chrysanthemum or Gamorrean Guard, but their taunt is not consistent at all. It's very easy to remove, and then it doesn't come back until they're able to cycle through specials. She can actually leverage a tank like Magna, but there's a lot of, or not a lot, but there's enough separate or anti-separatist synergy within the kit where she can't revive them that it doesn't really work out as well as it should. Not to mention, B2 himself isn't able to taunt, and while he does work really well because Aphra so badly needs a dispel, she also can't revive him, meaning I feel like there's another character that should really take that spot. And I am going to be suggesting, again, not a new suggestion either, BB9, which this has been a theory for a very long time about a character coming to the game. We once got a target lock First Order feat in GAC way back when. It turned out to be for Fleet, which made a lot of sense. But before we found out it was for Fleet, that was everyone's suspicion. It would be really cool because he could mirror BB-8 in a lot of ways, in the sense that when all allies are droids or Aphra, whenever he uses his one ability, he is going to be taunting. And then in addition to that, whenever Foresight is dodged, BB-8 would heal people. Well, it would be really nice if he would just cleanse a random ally, and then maybe on his basic, it would dispel on a critical hit or something like that. I don't know, just make him do what Aphra really needs for her team. She needs somewhat of a consistent taunter. She needs somewhat a consistent dispel and cleanse. And right now she doesn't really have that, and she's really milking a lot of offensive power with no real way to bail herself out if things start to turn south for her, especially if they go right after Aphra. She can revive the droids, but the droids can't ultimately revive her. So those are going to be our 5 suggestions for fixing some current teams out there. Let me know what you think. What faction or team out there could really use some help? And if so, what character would be the one to do it? So thank you guys for watching. And until the next time, stay awesome.